Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar today, which will all be about connecting with your family roots. My name is Anouk, and I am Polaron's marketing and communications coordinator. Please grab yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee because this will be a very interesting webinar with a very special co-host. But before I get into it, I will remind you all to please leave comments and questions in the Q&A box below, as we will be having a Q&A session after the webinar section. And please also subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook page and group that we have, so where you can connect with other people going through the same process. We are here today with Eva Hussain. She is our founder and director. Thank you so much for being here, Eva.
Hi, everyone.
And then we are here with our guest speaker, Robert Pine. He is the president of the Polish Genealogical Society of America and will be able to tell you all about this later on.
And hello.
So a little bit about our work. So Polaron, since 2003, we've been helping over 50,000 people obtain their European citizenship. We help with the whole process from beginning to end, so you have no reason to stress about anything. And we do our eligibility assessments completely for free. So if you have questions about anything at all, we are available around the globe, any time of day. So please don't hesitate to contact us for anything that you can think of. And without further ado, I will pass this over to the Robert Pine.
Thank you, Anouk, and thank you for inviting me to join with your friends and others for this presentation. And as you mentioned, I am the president of the Polish Genealogical Society of America. And our conversation today is connecting with your family roots. And a lot of that, if you want to hit next, please, deals with, why are people drawn to genealogy in the first place? Well, three key reasons. First of all, legal issues. There are items that come up, for example, inheritance. I've known of people who in the United States who were left gifts or monies or properties, from a foreign country such as Poland, and oftentimes the other direction. Here, someone might die and they don't have any close relatives, but they do have relatives in the old country, so to speak, such as Poland. And I know Polaron does some of this work to get to attorneys who specialize in these kinds of legal issues. There might be questions of parental uncertainty, guardianship, so forth. And then, intestate, it gets back to the inheritance area. Some people die without wills and so forth, and yet there is information that indicates that they were communicating with or have relatives in another country. And so genealogy becomes important to make these connections. But of course, the largest reason is family history. People have an interest in their personal background, their heritage, their family. Where did my family come from? What might they have done? Did they ever serve in the service for the Kaiser or the Tsar or the Polish army, or did they fight, wherever it might be? Maybe they were lower nobility and so forth. Or just going back in history and finding, what is behind the family. Why did they leave? Why did they come here? How did they come here? These are very interesting questions that people will approach to know more about their family history. Sometimes you can learn about what the occupations were. Not everyone was a peasant. They may have had skills. They may have been barrel makers or beer brewers or something, or could have worked I've met people who worked at court as stable masters and so forth. It adds depth and interest to one's family history. And some people also want to find out, do I still have relatives? as I have found in the old country? Do I have cousins back there? It'd be great to meet them, learn more. And many of them are also similarly interested in, do we still have family in America? And lastly, and core to many of the things as you see with Polaron, is genealogy, and all of this information comes together to build your dossier for the application for national citizenship in the EU and in any of its individual member states. So on the next slide, one of the nice things about genealogy today and doing research is both for the individual and the professional, much, much more is available. Governments and church archives are scanning and digitizing more and more records. Of course, they're starting with vital records, births, deaths, and marriages, but some of the other types of documents, notaries, military records, etc., even school records are starting to be put up as well. Besides the governmental and church archives, the individual groups, most countries have local genealogical societies. There's the Polish Genealogical Society in Poland, and many of the regional areas have genealogical societies. So they are also indexing records, which will tell people where to find records, and more and more of those types of records are also being digitized. Or it's an easy way of finding the information to then go to the archives and find the original records. And importantly, more and more of this is being made available online. You can do it from home. You don't have to buy an airplane ticket, go to Poland or Lithuania or Italy, and do it face to face in the archive itself. Much of it is very available in many ways online. So with that being said, what we also have is, societies here, such as the PGSA. What do we do as a society? Very good. Our primary role is to, as I say here, consolidate both domestic and foreign data sources. If you go to our website, you'll see that, we have everything from links to searchable databases by name, other types of databases, resources to help you find maps, gazetteers to look at where the name of a town was and what parish it might be and what voivodeship and so forth. We're a consolidator of information, making it easy for you to find things quickly by organizing them on our website rather than you having to spend a lot of time searching for them. With all that at hand, we also provide guidance and assistance. How do you search these records? Which are the best ones to use? Where do I start with all these records? How do I interpret them? Of course, many of them are going to be in Polish, Russian, German, Latin. And if you're doing work in France, they're going to be in French. In Italy, they're going to be in Italian. And, sometimes if you're lucky and you go back, it's going to be in a more archaic version of that language. An older version of Spanish or French or Danish or whatever it might happen to be based upon your background. So we provide guidance in those areas, specifically, to the old Polish Commonwealth, which of course includes not only present-day borders of Poland, but parts of Lithuania, Ukraine, and Belarus. And then we have relationships with in-country genealogists. So such as we work with Polaron, we have other genealogists who may specialize in certain types of genealogy. We have some that do a lot of 20th century or Soviet period or World War II. Others may specialize in a particular area of the old Polish region. And they come on board and produce very interesting articles for our journal, which members receive, and our quarterly webinars, which even non-members can attend. So those are some of the things that a society such as the PGSA provides, not only its membership, but much of it is also available to non-members to be helpful to them. Next, please. And specific to us, we are the oldest and largest Polish genealogical society in the U.S. And as I say, a little bit more about guidance and education, and there is an education section on our website as well. Where to look, how to use it, and who can help. I guess that's a good way of summarizing what I had on the previous slide. Where can I find information and interpret it? How can I use it? And who else can assist me in my searching? Next, please. A little bit more on us. I mentioned the database. We do have country surnames, which are searchable. We have a good number of those. We have a large number of research, what I call research sources. Everything, it covers everything from maps to, there's a whole list, but you'll see it on the website, and education. We produce a quarterly journal by both Polish and also Lithuanian and U.S. authors. We have our regular webinars, many of whom will speak to us from Poland. And we have other types of supportive research that we do. We're not a genealogist. We don't do family research. But when it comes to researching surnames, villages, finding parishes, a number of other areas, we can be of assistance in these types of things. And one more, please. And so, as I mentioned, one of the other areas, and it fits in with what we're talking about today, is the need for genealogical information for Polish citizenship applications. And it would apply both by blood descent or by presidential grant. And so if you want to go to the last slide there, please. So what we can do is, as a membership in an organization such as the Polish Genealogical Society of America, or if you're another nationality, its society, we provide support for, it shows that you are supporting Polish organizations in Polonia, Polish organizations and populations outside of Poland proper. Of course, Chicago is, a major Polish town in the United States, and we have a lot of national organizations that are based here. And, anything that can show your support for Polishness overseas is an added benefit to your application. We can document your Polish heritage, by everything that you're doing with the genealogical research. That's the purpose of that, showing that your roots are Polish. And the farther back one can go, the broader one can go, the better. It shows that you actually have interest currently today in your Polish roots, plus knowledge of Polish history and culture. And besides us, you might belong to a Polish historical society, or one of the, Polish dance groups, or of course in Chicago, for example, we have the Highlander groups and so forth, if you happen to come from southern Poland. Just showing that, you are dedicated to your Polish ancestry. And also, you've tried to discover and possibly visit current family in Poland. And that's a great advantage, that if you've actually gone to Poland and visited the country, that's always an advantage. But if in addition to that, you've spent the time and effort to actually discover and meet with family, that just shows for your application the dedication that you have towards your Polish heritage, and improves the status of the dossier that you're developing. And so that's a brief overview of why people do genealogy, how organizations such as ours can be helpful to you, and how belonging to an organization can fit in with an application from citizenship, no matter what country your heritage happens to be. But of course, ours is specific to Poland. And so the last slide, please, is our contact information. There's our website. Take a visit, search around, and feel free. There's contact information and email capability to send us questions and so forth. We'll be happy to answer those questions and help you where we can. And so with that being said, and speaking of questions, Anouk, do we have any questions?
Robert, we have lots of questions, and I'll be the first one to start.
Oh, Ava's has them. Okay.
Yep, I've got a question. And that is, why do you think that, particularly since COVID, the interest in Polish genealogy, but also identity and heritage has risen? Is it that people are looking for a connection? Is it more that they want to explore who they are? Because, historically, as we all know, when people arrived in America, there was pressure to assimilate, and people changed their surnames. They kind of anglicized, language and all of that. But there seems to be a trend to now reclaim all of those, century-old traditions, and like people are more open to talk about it. So I'm just wondering if you could bring us in through that lens into the conversation.
Yes, and the simple answer is all of the above. Part of it, of course, is, as you mentioned, when people would immigrate, a very large percentage left the old world behind them and wanted to become part of the new world. But we've skipped a generation or two, or in my case, a few more. My family started coming over before the American Civil War, like the late 1850s. But they still kept many of the Polish traditions in the family. Others didn't. But you're right, sometimes the children, but particularly grandchildren or great-grandchildren, will be looking back and saying, I really want to know from where I came. I have that more of an interest. I'm far enough away from the original immigrant. Some people just love history. I've had people who, just as they would say, become fans of Civil War or the Revolutionary War, and they visit battlefields and read a lot about, Gettysburg or, Concord. Some people love history, and because of their background, that's where they start. Some people fall into it accidentally. Other people, their grandparents, let's say they came over, or maybe their parents, or one of their parents, or great-grandparent came over, and relayed stories when they were maybe young. And as they grew older and remembered those stories and maybe had a family Bible or some other documents, they just started to wonder, where did my family come from? Was this the original name? What did they do? So there's an inquisitiveness that can be started many different ways. And between your comments and mine, you can see different people will come to it from different directions. And then there are people who come to it now because they do want to get and try to obtain a citizenship from the home country. There's a growth in very recent years in that regard as well. I would also add one of the reasons is, as I explained in the beginning, the ability to do it, for an individual to go out and do it through what's being put out on the websites from the major governmental and church sources, as well as organizations such as ours, though we've been around for over 50 years. As more information becomes more readily available and it's easier to obtain, more people will simply get into it because it's easier. Before, it was extremely difficult. You had to go places or you had to hire people, and it could take months or years to get even basic information. Now it is easier. And if something's easier, more people are likely to do it.
Thank you so much for that thorough answer, Robert. We have a couple more, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So we have someone asking, is assistance available for Polish American genealogical research within the US? Finding US records for relatives of Polish descent.
Yes. If you're talking about any U.S. records, they have always been quite available. Even there was a time not long ago when if you wanted to find birth or death or marriage records, you would have to go to the church, to the parish or the archdiocese. You would have to go to the county records and so forth. But more and more of this information, large amounts of this information, are now available online. Many people may be familiar with Family Search, the Mormon records. not only for the US, but for overseas, and particularly Poland, where you can find documents. Um, you of course have local genealogists, and our website again will guide you to a large selection of sites that lead you to these locations. Some can lead you directly to the location. Others will, for example, lead you to a list of states, and then you go to your state, and then it'll give a list of in different towns or counties and so forth, particularly counties, or on a state basis, the access URL website to search for surnames, for birth records and the like. And usually it gives good instructions as how you can order those. If they're not online, you can order those from the county clerk or whoever might have those records. So U.S. records are not that difficult to get. On the church side, they're usually available. And different churches will handle it differently, but most of them, if you can show a relationship and for a particular person, they will find the record for you. One other thing I might note is, particularly with Polish, going to the Polish churches, the key of any kind of research is where is the person? You got to know the parish and so forth, because that's the one who held the records. So you may know that we get a lot of questions. My great-grandmother came from southeastern Poland. What can you tell me about her? Well, that's a big area. Or came from Poznań, the city or the province. If it's the province, there's hundreds of cities and parishes. But in the U.S., if you have a Polish ancestor who was married here, many of the Polish churches or a priest at the Polish church would often, in the marriage record here in the United States, include in the marriage record to document that they were baptized Catholics being married in a Catholic church. They will write in where they were baptized in Poland. So many people don't know really where their ancestors came from, but that's one very possible route to discover that, because the detail may not always be there on military or draft or boat records and so forth. It'll say came from, particularly at that period of time, Poland didn't exist. So they came from Russia, they came from Austria-Hungary, they came from Prussia. But if you're lucky, very often the marriage record will have the parish of where the bride and groom were baptized in Poland. And then you got the door wide open to investigate that back in the old country.
All right, thank you. I have another interesting question. So this is about Jewish ancestry. Karen says, I have contacted the Poland organization in Warsaw to dig up any history of my family from a town outside. Now she's saying a name that I'm afraid to pronounce, Bialystok or something. I'm very sorry.
Białystok, yes, it's in eastern Poland. Yeah.
I'm not Polish by like personally, I'm not. So I'm very sorry for my pronunciation. So does your organization have access to other sources, or could you recommend any other groups? Thank you.
Yes. On our website, we do have in a couple of areas sections that are devoted to Jewish sources. And there are several very good, broad Jewish sources which can give you a lot of assistance, and then some specific ones. So I would just say go to our website, start off by going to the searchable database area, scroll down, and a couple of other areas will have things for Jewish. We're not, primarily Jewish, but we try and send people who have Jewish background to these particular areas that are Jewish organizations, Jewish genealogical sites. So we have those out there, and they will be very helpful. Also, non-Jewish people can use those as well, because some of the information I have out there is very good for example, town names, village names, which could have a different name during the partition period. So it might have a nice Polish name right now. I'll give you an example. Wrocław in southwestern Poland, for years, of course, decades or a couple centuries, was German. It was Breslau, completely different, as opposed to say Posen versus Poznań, or Gdańsk versus Danzig. Those are pretty similar. So they have these types of crossovers. Or if you come from the Pale in the Russian partition, they will have the names of villages in Russian and also in Cyrillic, so that you see the original Cyrillic name, not just a transliteration into the Roman alphabet. So check our website, go through it, and there are in a couple of areas Jewish sections that can reference you to Jewish genealogical sites that'll be very, very helpful.
Okay, thank you. And then we have time for one more. So I will read it. It says, I have been trying to get proof of my grandfather's birth and death. New York State has been very slow with the process. It takes them more than 2 years to get things done, according to them. Also, I have nor found any records on my great-grandparents other than a couple of records because of lack of documentation. I am afraid to move forward due to lack of records connecting me to Poland. What should I do? And then they also added, my grandfather came to the US before World War I, but never returned to Poland due to the war. He was only a child, born, I believe, around 1907. As a grandchild, would I be eligible for Polish citizenship?
You would take the last question. You're the experts more than I am on that. But on the first two, I would, if the state says it's going to take 2 years or something, there's nothing we can do about that. But at least you have that gear in motion. I would, go out and try the Family Search Mormon site. And if you know the parish in New York, did he say New York City or just the state of New York?
New York State.
New York State, okay. So if you know the county, which is a key because it's the county that tends to keep these records, see if they have the records. They may have microfilmed them at some time. And if you got some dates of when he might have died or gotten married, I would check on that, because a lot of records that the Mormons have, you can get them from them right away off their site, as opposed to going through and paying the state or the county their fees and waiting 6 months or a year for it. That just seemed like a long time, though. In the Chicago area and so forth, you can get them quite quickly. The second part of that was after New York State.
After New York State, let me read it again.
Oh, he was born. Was he born in the United States?
Nor have I found records on my great-grandparents other than a couple of records because of lack of documentation. I'm afraid to move forward
Yes.
due to lack of records connecting me to Poland. What can they do?
Yeah, okay. Again, that gets into how do you make the connection. I mentioned the marriage records in a case there. Let's put it this way. There's a lot of places you can look, but without knowing what he might have or she might have, I could just go through a list of things. If they want to send to you a little more detail or get it all, or go to our website and they can mail it to president at or research help at, and give us a little more detail of what they might have and so forth. Be happy to take a look at it, and we can email some thoughts back to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
definitely.
then you take on the citizenship pre-World War I.
Since we're running a little bit out of time, I would suggest that we would round this up right now, and we will get back to everyone whose questions have not been answered. We do this in a following email.
But I think the basic is it, and maybe Eva can jump in. I think the real understanding is, of course, before 1920, after World War I, Poland didn't exist. So they didn't have nobody had a Polish citizenship. They were either German, Austro-Hungarian, or Russian. And that, with that said, Polaron can give you more information, but it does get a little more difficult in that case, as opposed to someone who, say, immigrated in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah, it takes an expert to look at it and a closer look. And we do this completely for free in our eligibility assessments. There's a lot more details sometimes that we need to take into consideration. So I will share how you're able to contact us in the following email. And to round this presentation up, I will encourage you all to please get in touch with us about any of your questions. The questions that have not been answered in this current webinar will be emailed to you, like I said, and you can still call us any time of day. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. This will also be posted on YouTube as well for the people who missed it.
And if someone's going to call in if someone's going to call in the US, I see the country code 1. Why don't you let them know where 332 is so they know what time zone?
That's New York. And a big thank you to Robert for such a wonderful presentation this morning. My time, evening European time, and afternoon US time, depending on the time zone you're at, right, Robert?
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Some of their home base, they have, as you saw on the map that they showed, they're in Europe, several locations in Europe, plus I guess that's New York City and Australia. So Eva, for example, is in Australia. So anyone in the US and so forth, it's already tomorrow for them. So be aware of that, not only a few time zones, but a day change. They're on the other side of the international date line. So getting back, give them an appreciation that they're quite a 12 or 14 hours difference than Chicago.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, that's how we make it work, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'll close this webinar now. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and please keep your eyes upon upcoming webinars. I see someone asking if the link to the recording will be sent, but yes, I will share the link of the recording with everyone who has attended tonight. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.